It seems a lot steeper, like a lot higher up from that.
I got a question for you.
Hey guys, welcome to the seminar. We're going to get started. He's just going to say a prayer for us, and then we're going to get started.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to have a seminar. And thank you that people from American Fork were able to come, and we're excited to hear from them. Father, we pray that you would help us as we're trying to figure out our career paths. You would lead us each where you would have us go. And thank you for BYU and for all the opportunities we have to hear from professionals and get their take on their career and all the help that is for us in figuring out what we want to do. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Okay guys, so we've got a really good speaker today. We've got Scott Sensenbauer, who's here from the City of American Fork. First we're going to go over some announcements stuff. So we have a field trip. This is going to be tomorrow, March 8th at 3 p.m. So if you have questions, you can contact Ben Martineau. That's his email down there. But it's going to be a ride-along on the UVX system. So you're going to go and ride along on UVX, and the engineers that design the system are going to be there, and they're going to tell you all about it and ask some questions. It's going to be a good trip. So if you have questions, there's a sign up right there. That's going to be a lot of fun. So that's tomorrow. If you're a senior and you need a leadership point, we have 3 more spots available for the STEM after school class at Franklin Community Center. So those are going to be on March 20th, April 3rd, and April 17th. So if you do need a leadership point, contact Adam Folk or come up and talk to any of us officers, and we'll be able to help you out with that. This is a really fun activity. The kids are all learning about the engineering that we're teaching them. So that's a lot of fun. Scholarships. So don't forget to sign up for department scholarships. I don't know if you guys know, but civil engineering is actually the most endowed program in the College of Engineering. So we have lots of scholarships. So just apply. If you think that you won't get it, that's a possibility, but you should try anyways because we do have lots of them. So go sign up for those. Women in Engineering are going to be having a lunch and learn with York Engineering, and that's going to be tomorrow at 12 p.m. in the Legal Center. Bring your resumes. From what I understand, it's going to be kind of like an intro session, but we're going to go over stuff too. So that's going to be really good as well. Kim's workshop. So this is something. Gina put this meme on, and it really kind of offends me because my first semester was in 2012. So this is going to be something where Kim goes over tricks for knowing how to sign up for your classes and make it as beneficial as possible for you going through the program. So 100 and 200 level seminar students are going to go at 5 p.m. 300 and 400 level students are going to come at 5:30. Perks, you get to come learn about planning courses, there'll be chips and salsa, and you get to hang out with Kim. So that's like my favorite thing. And then officer elections, we're going to do this a little bit earlier than we have in the past. So they're coming up on March 21st is when we're going to do elections. So we're going to send out a link, and you can begin nominating yourselves, your friends. This is a really great opportunity, guys. It's been really a lot of good leadership experience for me, something that I've been asked about in interviews, and it's something that employers are looking for. Plus, it's really fun to be able to work with faculty and the rest of the chapter and see how things function. So you can nominate your friends or nominate yourself. So we'll get bringing that on March 21st. And then just as a reminder, next week is college lecture, so don't come here. Go to the JSB auditorium. We'll be having that there. Now I get the privilege of presenting Scott. So he's originally from Silver City, New Mexico, and he's lived most of his life there. He received a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from BYU in 1995, and then stayed and got his master's degree in 1996, the year after. He started in the private sector at Phelps Dodge Mining Company in Silver City, and then he managed water capital projects and the water rights for the mining operation. He left the mining industry and worked for Wilson and Company Engineers in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and he discovered that he didn't like consulting, but he really liked working in local government. And so he worked for the city of Rio Rancho after that, and that has a population of 97,000. And he was there for 15 years and became the public works director. He then accepted a job with the city of El Paso, Texas, and he was the assistant city engineer in 2016. He really loved that. His wife's from there, so they had a good time. And then he accepted a job as a public works director at American Fork back in 2017, and he loved it here. And we're excited to have him, so please help me welcome Scott.
so kind of loud-mouthed that I just talk and that's it. So I don't know if you can hear me, but hopefully so. Great. If during, we were just talking, David Bunker here is here as well. I do want to introduce him. I was going to say he's my bodyguard. Technically, he's actually my boss. So he and I went to school here to BYU around the same time. Good friends then, and here we are working together. He's the city administrator in American Fork, so I'm glad to have him here as well. We were talking though before that if at the end you all go run out screaming and sign up to be humanities majors, I think I probably led you astray, so hopefully that won't happen. What I wanted to do today is talk to you just a little bit about some of the exciting work and things that I've been able to do in my career and some lessons learned, including some that are mistakes that I've made and things that I've learned. Not all of these are engineering related, but some of them are. I'm going to make a little pitch at the end as well. But I started off, after I graduated, I was very fortunate to get my first job in my hometown. Let's see, let's start the presentation here. Beautiful. In Silver City, New Mexico, this is what it is. That's where I grew up. And I started in the mining industry. This is the Chino mine. This is where I worked my first job. It's the copper mines. Copper uses a lot of water. And this mine used essentially the equivalent of one of the larger cities in New Mexico, Las Cruces. It's down near the south. Roughly about 100,000 people city. Mines used about the same amount of water as a city of 100,000 people. And I was really interested in water, pumps, wells, pipelines, booster stations. It was a terrific education. And I'm going to share with you just a few little snippets of some things that I learned. This pipeline, I still curse it to this day. I took a Google shot of it. You can see it runs down one side underneath the state highway and up on the other side. It's a welded steel line. It takes water from an old abandoned mine shaft that's about 1,500 feet deep and pumps it down the bottom is probably about maybe 4,500 feet elevation. And the big line shaft turbine pumps at the bottom pump up to a mine that is sitting about 7,000 feet elevation. So it's a pretty big lift of water going up there. I believe it was put in sometime around the 1950s or 60s. So it was old, and this neighboring mine that I was mentioning that was up high, the mine that I worked for did a hostile takeover. Bought their stock, took it over, and was going to use it to expand the operation of the copper mine. In doing so, for whatever reason, there was, I don't remember the reasons, but we needed to reverse the flow. There was water being produced a lot more up above, and we needed to send the water back down to where we had, at least for a temporary time, a really high need. And we were trying to figure out how, which pumps do we go get, how big, how much water are we going to be able to get. And this is one of those lessons where I learned not everything works like it is in the book. And after pumping some heavily mineralized water for 40, 50 years, whatever it was, this line, it was old. It's still functional. Anyway, so we were calculating, figured out how much water was going through, and kind of used it to back into what the Hazen-Williams C factor was. And we were like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. I remember this from school, and we're calculating it. And then we went and started reversing the flow, and we got maybe half of that flow. And was trying to figure out what in the world is going on. This isn't making sense. Till we cut a piece of the pipe open, and sure enough, if you could visualize a pipe with silica crystals all at an angle like this, all the way up the pipe. So when water's going that way, you have a very different friction factor than water going that way when it's going against the crystals. Anyway, it was a lesson learned that, okay, not everything works like the equations do. You've got to do some field conditions and learn. Anyway, it was an interesting story. This is you can't really see it, but kind of over here where there's this drainage way, this arroyo, there's a railroad running kind of right through the middle of that, and there's a crossing. this was one of my favorite stories, and I learned a lot on this experience as well. The mine was in the middle of a labor dispute, and this was a wood trestle bridge that went to that upper mine down to the lower mine, and it hauled the copper concentrate down to where it would go into the smelter and be turned into copper. And in the middle of this labor dispute, the union was very dissatisfied with the way negotiations were going. And suddenly, in the middle of the night one night, that wood trestle bridge just happened to catch on fire. And they called out the fire department, they came out, the thing had kind of put itself out. Fire department, they went home, okay, everything's fine. About an hour or two later, they got a call again. It caught fire again, and this time it really went. It went up in smoke. They torched it pretty good. So now you have my boss is kind of leading the charge. We got to get this railroad back open, and we got to get it back open now because every day that it's not functional, we're not able to haul the concentrate. The mine loses about $200,000 of gross revenue per day. That's huge, right? So you got to get it open. So my boss says, okay, we're doing all these things. One thing I want you to do is tell me we're going to replace that wood trestle bridge with, we're just going to go get a big stout culvert. And we're going to put it in there. You need to tell me how much cover I need on it. Oh boy, okay, get out the manual, calculate the soil pressures, do all these things. When you start to do that, he comes and he says, what are you doing? That's not how you calculate this. You call up the manufacturer and you say, hey, how much do I need? Because he's already calculated it, and it's in the table, and all he needs to do is tell you. Learned a lesson that day that, oh, that's how you calculate it. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. It's already done. That's all I needed to do. So we calculated, figured out how much it was, and with, of course, typical mining industry, if you need that much cover, double it, you're good. And it was cowboy engineering, if what I call it. Get it done, we got the thing open, and the trains started moving and hauling the concentrate again. It was worth it to spend the premium to do the extra work and just get it done. And sometimes, that's what you've got to do. Anyway, good lesson learned there. I left the mining industry, though, and went up to Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Copper is doing this, it's up, it's down, you get bonuses, you're laid off, back bonuses, and I said, I don't want to play that game, I really want something more stable. So I went to work for a consulting company in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. This is in the Albuquerque area. It's a suburb of Albuquerque. When I moved there in 2000, there were 50,000 people that lived there. Today it's 97,000. I was with a consulting company for a little while, decided, that's not really what I want to do. Some of you are going to be wonderful consultants. I'm not one of them. I think if you stick me in a room and have me design stuff and do plan sets, I'll go crazy. It's just not my thing. I'm grateful we have people who do that and do a great job. But I found a real passion in local government. And after being with the consulting company for about a year and a half, I went to work for the city and was there for a little over 15 years. Rio Rancho is huge in area. It's 110 square miles. Just to give you a perspective, Provo is 44 square miles. So picture 97, almost 100,000 people spread out over that distance with pockets of development here, pockets there, and so forth. It presents some very major infrastructure challenges. We had a lot of water leaks, we had a lot of water lines and pipes, major lines running from one area to another, from a supply source to the demand, with nothing in between. So the number of miles of pipe per population was staggering compared to a normal city, the way a regular city would develop from a core growing out. Roads were also a horrific challenge, as they often are in many cities. And drainage too, because while it's an arid climate, you can see, it's desert. The mountains there get a lot of precipitation, Sandia Mountains, but in Rio Rancho itself, it's about 9 inches a year, is it? And usually that happens in 2 months, usually in maybe 3 or 4 storm events. And when it rains, it unloads and causes a lot of problems. So with all those challenges, let me just say it was good job security for engineers and public works directors. Wonderful job. Couple of things that I want to highlight. obviously don't have time to highlight a lot of things. I want to highlight a few good, exciting projects and programs I was able to be a part of. David asked me one time, what is the, I guess, are the things that I am most excited about, career projects or career anything that I'm most proud of. I gave him two answers. First, the technical one, and that's this one, this program, where we, in a desert, growing, booming city with limited water resources, one of the things we needed to do was figure out how to use our water better. And so we embarked on a program in 2000 that's still going on, still developing, I should say, to begin reusing all of our wastewater, all of it. Not there, they weren't there yet, or aren't there yet as a city, but a lot of it's started and underway. So this might be a little bit blurry, but it starts at the wastewater plant. I'm going to take you kind of through the journey of some of the projects that we've been able to do. So the first, glass, this is a little graphic we used down there, is the plant influent, and that's the yummy stuff. There's the bowl right there. And by the way, there's nothing so cool as sewer plants. I just love them. I really do. After working around it for a while, eventually you get to where you can eat your lunch at the Headworks, and it's fine. So, anyways, it's great. It's not the I won't say what Dr. Wallace used to say. Anyways, one of the things that was very key to the wastewater plant in doing this is we decided as a city that we needed to move away from conventional treatment and use an MBR, membrane bioreactors. It produces a much higher quality effluent. It is a little more expensive, although the costs have been steadily coming down. But we were eventually, Rio Rancho had 5 active sewer plants. When you're spread out so much, it's terrible. 5 small ones, smaller than a lot of the ones you see in a place like here. But we were eventually either converting them all or decommissioning them and building new MBR plants because of the quality of water that you get. Smaller footprint, a lot of things. That water that would come out of the MBR plants, we were sending it to one of 2 places, either using it for non-potable recycling, meaning irrigation of parks, irrigation of different public facilities, or the fail-safe was return it to the river, the Rio Grande, and get return flow credits on the water rights, which is a discussion in and of itself. What we didn't send there is we sent to what we called water polishing was the term we used, which was some advanced oxidation process and granular activated carbon. It's more fun to say GAC because it sounds like I'm speaking Klingon. But at that point, that water, when it went through those processes, was effectively drinking water. The state of New Mexico would have and could have allowed us at that point to put it right straight back into the potable water system. We made the decision that we wanted to inject it though, to recharge the aquifer and build it back up. So this is a little graphic that we had that kind of shows what we were trying to do was build essentially a water mound down in the groundwater, where we were essentially putting a barrier between the river and the aquifer that we were pulling from and mining. This is the MBR plant, one of the major MBR plants itself, and you can see in the upper left picture there, those are some of the basins where the membranes were located. This is a close-up of what the membranes are. We used ones called Zeeweed. It's Xenon was the manufacturer. I'm trying to remember who they've been bought out now by, but this is pictured just a diameter of like about that thick membrane. They're tough, they're strong. Just to give you the idea, perspective to a human, how long these are. So you picture these cartridges, the water, the mixed liquor solution that's in the sewer plant after it's been digested by the bugs goes up against these, and the negative pressure sucks the water through and leaves the rest of it on the outside. Eventually you got to backwash and do other things, but the effluent that comes out is phenomenal compared to a conventional plant with a clarifier. There's no clarifiers on these. We would take that water and then put it into, this is the tank, a partially buried, David loves these, partially buried concrete tank. There were reasons here. He doesn't love them, but there are reasons why we did it. partially buried concrete tank. But it's where it was stored after it left the plant and then pumped to various locations around the city. Lots of inside purple pipe, lots of outside purple pipe, and basically sent again to irrigation system. This is one of the parks that was irrigated with 100% recycled water. What wasn't put in there was put into the river itself. And I found that's kind of a pretty picture of the river, so that's a good one. You don't see the tires and the refrigerators. Appreciate that. But water didn't go to either of those sources. We ran through, this is the actual facility of the water polishing. That's the carbon tanks. That's the bottom picture there is the actual place where these vessels are inside. And at that point, again, we could have taken it to, this is one of the drinking water tanks. It's a 4 million gallon steel, above ground steel tank. Could have put it in that system and put it in the distribution system for drinking water. This is the inside of one of our well houses. But instead, we actually, back to this picture on the far left, we drilled an injection well. It's about 2,000 feet deep and recharged it. We're getting credits for it. Really exciting project. It's one that is going to still do wonders to this day to enhance the life of the aquifer, stretch it out, basically give this city here a lot more room to grow and use its water resources. A lot of other great projects that we did there that probably don't have time to talk about today, but we did a reverse osmosis plant. These pictures that you see here are, at least to our knowledge at the time, it was the largest arsenic removal system in the country. Rio Rancho was blessed with high arsenic in the water, and the EPA in their infinite wisdom changed the limit from 50 micrograms per liter down to 10. Most of our wells were in the 30s. So we had to spend $42 million to be able to remove the arsenic and get it down to acceptable levels, including another $2 million a year in operation and maintenance costs. I'm not bitter about it at all, but you think about it. If I always used to say this, if you were going to give us, or say to the city, go spend $42 million on something to improve the life and health of the residents of Rio Rancho, New Mexico, arsenic removal would not be where we would buy free gym passes so that everyone could get their fat butts to the gym, and they would have had a lot better, including me by the way, a lot better health benefit than this, but no one questions more EPA, and so we didn't. We took care of it. And like I say, I'm not bitter at all. So, anyways, it was a good project. It was great to be a part of. And a booster station that we built as well. So, lest you think that it was all about water, when you're in public works, there's a lot of things as well. Water was my focus in college. It was what I focused my master's program on. But when you become in public works and you go into those kinds of things, you really need to become, if that's the career path you choose, become more of a generalist than a specialist. And in fact, I always say when people say, well, what is really your specialty? My specialty is making sure I don't have a special aid. I want to make sure that I know at least a little bit about everything, because roads and transportation were kind of not my thing in school here. I'm pretty sure I got a C in roads, and as David and I used to say in college, C stands for complete and D stands for done. So, go on. And just so you know, I'll tell you about that later, why C students are the best. This is a roundabout that we installed. That's the aerial. These are Google shots of just the roundabout itself. Right next to a high school that's got 3,000 students. There were some concerns. Ooh, are we going to be able to do this? Is it going to function well? And as you can see over here, we have a free right. This is coming out of their parking lot. And it's a free right where a lot of the traffic went, and then the traffic that was headed east went around this way. This roundabout functioned amazingly. We, in fact, the city there has installed 10 more roundabouts at key intersections, some where there have been a four-way stop. Our data showed, we tracked the data, and it matched what our research showed for national trends, 80% reduction in traffic accidents, 80%. Phenomenal. And we were able to make it safer, traffic flowed better. I love roundabouts. If they're done right, designed right, put in the right place, they are terrific. And it's sometimes still, to this day, a little bit of an education process to educate either city councilors or public members who have concerns. But that's one of the things that is key, is being able to communicate how it improves, how it makes life better. Yes, there's still problems. Every now and then somebody still has a crash. As I said, if we as engineers design something idiot-proof, somebody builds a better idiot. And it happens. So this is another roundabout that we used, that we designed there as well and got put in. Same thing, dramatic reduction. I like this in that this had a way that the bicycle people, what we call the spandex crowd, they just go right on through. They're really hardcore bikers. Your casual bikers, people like me, you can get off and then head up this little path and be on the sidewalk to get through the roundabout if you're more comfortable. So this was, again, a really well-designed one we like. A couple non-engineering lessons I want to share with you that I've learned from some of these projects and from working at Rio Rancho. Number one, communication is so key, and how we brand our programs are so important. Originally, we had started this water reuse program that I discussed. We called it the water reuse program, or we called it even reuse water or reclaimed water. Okay, that sounds nice, but recycled water, that's what they called it in California. I said, that's what we need to start calling it here as well. We need to do that. So it took a little bit of, I guess, convincing of some of my staff, but eventually I said, hey, this is what we're doing. We're calling it recycled water. Because people understand the concept of recycling. You don't throw your water bottle away. You put your cardboard in a different container. People are willing to go to a lot of extent to recycle things to help our planet. And water is one of the key things as well. We should be calling it that. It's called that in a lot of places. It was phenomenal, the difference that it made. And we had very little opposition, concerns from people realizing that we're taking the poo-poo water from the plant, we're cleaning it up and put it in the ground and going to drink it in a few years. And you'd think, oh gosh, people would be worried about that. They weren't. They weren't. And it took a lot of work, but we were able to do it. You want to be aware of emotional decisions. Sometimes the roundabouts cause an emotional response. Oh, nobody knows how to drive them. What do we do? What do we do? And it takes the adults to be calm and to be able to explain how it benefits, show areas where they work, and not ignore people's concerns. They're legitimate. You need to hear them. You need to address them. I learned that lesson, and we did have some opposition on some of our roundabouts, but we're able to get it. And one of the happiest moments of my career down there was when one of the old crusty guys who, I'm not kidding, he talked like this, and he came up to me one day and said, I was really against that roundabout, and I gotta tell you now, I like it. That was a great moment, it really was. I loved it. It was a good moment. Learn new things constantly. You're never too old to learn. There's always new technologies, new way of working with people, and even formal education. One of the things I think I didn't put up there is, in your 7 years, I thought that was great. So I'm 48, I'm almost 49. I have been formally enrolled in school, in classes, half of my life, 24 out of those 48 years. Because I, right now, am working on a master's in public administration. After swearing I'd never go back to school after I left here, I enrolled a few years ago, taking one class a semester. It's been challenging, no question about it. I'm still, doing this and writing papers and things like that. I'm almost done. I'm on track to finish probably about a a couple of days before I turn 50. And that's, that's a little over a year, 14 months from now that I turn 50. You're never too old. You're never too old. You should always be learning. You should always be doing things to keep yourself fresh, keep yourself relevant, keep yourself on the edge. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You know the old joke, how do you tell if an engineer is an introvert, or excuse me, an extrovert? The extroverted engineer looks at your shoes when they're talking to you instead of their own. Sometimes we're not, that was a joke, man, this is a rough crowd. Really rough crowd. Sorry, I probably hit a nerve there. So, sometimes we're not the greatest communicators. It's a challenge. It's something that you really want to look at. Find out, how do you communicate? How do you be able to share your ideas, your technical knowledge with others? You want to be sure and mentor and motivate. The thing I'm actually most proud of at my career in Rio Rancho is the janitors. You say, what? With all those projects? Yes, it's the janitors. One of the areas that I was over as public works that I didn't have a class in here was how to be over the building maintenance people. The building maintenance people were over the janitors. And one of the things that I'm so proud that we were able to accomplish there, it's not a glamorous job. I did it in college, and scrubbing toilets, it's not real glamorous. So we were having a lot of issues with turnover, and still did down there. Well, one of the things that I'm so excited about is, where were these people going when they left the janitor job at Rio Rancho? They were going to other jobs at the city that were better paying jobs. And whenever we got it to the point where people were working so hard, they'd get promoted somewhere else. And so anytime a new janitor would come in, we'd hire a new person, I would sit them down, or have their boss sit them down, and point out, do you see Sally over there? She's reading meters and making $5 more than when she started. She was a janitor 3 months ago. See Bubba over there? He was a janitor too. Now he's a construction inspector because he worked and did a good job, and we knew his work ethic and decided to train him up to be that. And we were able to point that out. And it was amazing because now these new people coming in say, you mean if I work hard scrubbing the toilets and having a good attitude, I could be in that, and then that, and then that position? Yes, you could. And it changed the culture completely. We got better service. And people were happier. Now there was always a few who just don't come along. And those people we were able to help out, or as I like to say, eventually we helped them out. And they did. And sometimes we had to take care of things like that. That's part of being the public works director. Sometimes you gotta let people go. But people who wanted to work were able to go. That has nothing to do with engineering, right? But being a motivator, being a mentor is so key, and you're gonna have those opportunities. I hope you all do at some point in your career. Don't neglect those things. So I left Rio Rancho. It's a long story, but there was an opportunity in the city of El Paso. It sounded really good. I went down there. I was only there a year. This is just a little over a year ago. El Paso, Texas. Love the city. It was great living there. Things changed at the job. The boss I went to work for left, and his boss left. Again, long story. Worked on some great projects there, but I learned some other lessons that I do want to share with you. One is to appreciate diversity in race, gender, religion, etc. So most of my life, I've grown up in a predominantly Hispanic state, community, very Catholic community. I've been the minority many times, both religiously and racially as well. In El Paso especially, very much so. It's 83% Hispanic. And I'll tell you, I never had such a good time of working there and appreciating that diversity from the people I had also a Muslim working for me. My boss's boss was a Muslim, Palestinian refugee from Jordan. Wonderful people. How much I appreciated them. And just so you know, you women out there, half of my crew that worked for me, half of them were women. Engineers, architects, project managers, and with one or two notable exceptions, guess who was outperforming who, the women or the men? It wasn't even close. And boy, I miss those ladies because they were smart, capable, and amazing, and I appreciate them so much. I do miss them. I wish I could find a couple of them here. But Anyway, your career, another lesson is sometimes your career will take turns you don't necessarily expect. Again, I went into a situation thinking one thing. The boss's boss, who was the guy from Jordan, one of the guys from Jordan, got bone cancer, had to quit, had to leave. Life happens sometimes, and sometimes things go ways you don't expect. I have not expected to come back to American Fork, but I am so glad that I did. And so you just need to be ready to roll with the punches sometimes when things don't go your way. It happens. Be a good leader and treat people right. I learned this in Rio Rancho, learned it in El Paso. When you treat people right with dignity and respect, they respond. They have my back, I have their back. We're building a very good culture at American Fork. Thanks to David, and he's built a good team. He hired a really good public works director for one, and we've been able to make a lot of good changes and a lot of good things going. But American Fork, the best is saved for last. I want to talk just briefly about the TOD. It's a transit-oriented development. Just a snapshot of a few things we're working on in American Fork that are exciting. I don't have pictures, this is just want to tell you about it. The transit-oriented development is a development that we're steering the development and doing some city-built projects right around the Front Runner station in American Fork. It's a phenomenal opportunity, a very unique opportunity in many ways, to be able to build a community, build a transit center where people are able to live, work, play, get on the train, go where they need to go. We've got this thing going. It's a huge project. It's really not a project, it's many projects. One of the things we're doing right now is designing a road, making sure that it's a walkable road, a bikeable road, still allows the cars to do. It's been challenging, and it's not going to be cheap, but what an exciting project it is. We're also replacing a spring line. I think it's about 40 to 50% of our water supply comes from springs up the canyon. The Yawna pipeline that was built, I believe, in the 1930s, it's done. And so we're replacing it with a high-density polyethylene. It's the black plastic pipe. And it just started this project right now. Don't go up American Fork Canyon for the next couple months if you can avoid it. But when we're done, we're excited what this is going to do for the city and our water supply. We recently replaced our old chlorine gas system with a on-site hypochlorite generating system. Much safer. It's a terrific project. It's working great and providing the disinfection we need. We're also working on our 10-year road plan. We've got a lot of road needs. Probably if you go to work for any city, you're going to see one of the things that just sometimes gets neglected is road maintenance. American Fork, it has been, and so we've got a lot of catching up to do and a lot of work that we're doing to get that done. And we're even looking at places where we can even put some more roundabouts from time to time. They're coming. It's the wave of the future. It's no question. At certain places, it's the right thing to do. So a lot of wonderful, exciting things going on in American Fork. We're also growing as well, growing substantially. And we're trying to make sure that we steer that growth in the right direction. A couple final thoughts I want to share with you. Number one, I talked earlier about don't be embarrassed about average grades, right, David? We don't. I read an article recently that was actually just, I think, the day before yesterday. It's funny, it said most millionaires were C students. C student millionaire. I've got half of that down, but, you know. It's all right. And one of my favorite quotes, this is true, I'm not trying to get political, no matter what you think about George W. Bush, I love it how he was speaking to, I think it was Yale, and said, you A students, you B students, you're going to be wonderful leaders in your community, you're going to do a great job. You C students, you too can be president of the United States. So that's pretty good. Please don't worry if you don't feel in your classes here like the typical engineer. David and I both were sitting out here years ago in the audience listening to lectures like this and thinking, I will admit, I had many times where I thought, am I in the right profession? Am I in the right major? I love infrastructure, but I really don't like just sitting punching plans, calculating numbers. It's just not my thing. Am I really doing the right thing? I'm so grateful I found a a home where I'm able to be happy, thriving, doing what I like to do. I work with people far more than I do numbers and calculations. If that's you, there's still a future for you. Please don't go be a humanities major. Nothing against them. They're welcome to. They have their place. Learn to write and communicate. Thanks, Dr. Miller. I don't know if he's here, but thank you to him and others. He was here when I was here. I can't tell you how many times early in my career here at BYU, I wrote what I thought was just a brilliant paper. It was just awesome. Brilliant thoughts. I mean, who could write this better? And he massacred me on the grade. Why? I was using punctuation, grammar. It was terrible. And after a while, I said, you know what? This is ridiculous. If I'm going to put in this kind of work, I'm going to learn how to write properly, use the right words, do the right punctuation, all of those things. And that forced me to become a good writer. I spend much more time writing memos, letters, any kind of documents, legal documents, you name it, than I do engineering. I love it, and this is an area where I am so thankful to my career at BYU that forced me to become a good writer by not being nice and giving me good grades when I quite frankly didn't deserve it. Last thought, I want to share with you my favorite memory for BYU, and it's got a point. This is not just a little trip down memory lane. When I was in graduate school doing my master's program, I don't know if it's probably still there, but downstairs, the bottom, there were two offices together at the time, kind of near the, whatever it's called, right? The thing that goes underneath, I assume it's still there. And in those offices, they had packed 4 in each, 8 total graduate students. And we had a little office, thought we were just like living high and hot because we had a desk and a chair. And in that group of 8, there were 2 Jordanian Muslims. There was a woman from India, she was Hindu. The rest of us were LDS, but you had 2 from New Mexico, 1 from Idaho, 1 from Utah, and 1 from Argentina. Kind of a diverse group. There were times where I had an assignment that was due. And I said, you know what, but I've got an opportunity to talk to Waleed here from Jordan and ask him about Islam. I don't know much about Islam. What do you believe? Why do you think this way? What are some of the ways you thought? And I can't tell you how many times we had a good conversation. I learned something. I turned in my assignment late, got a worse grade for it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was worth every bit of that because of what I learned. Or talking to the lady from India, learning about India, Hinduism, all of those things. Talking to the guy from Argentina, learning about that. I'd never been there. The 8 of us got together and decided one night to come back here, it was I think a Friday night, and bring a dish, something, bring your wife, your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, and bring a dish from your home community. So of course, being from New Mexico, I brought green chili enchiladas. Not enchiladas, but enchiladas. And it was really good. Anyways, I don't remember what everyone else brought, but ours was awesome. It was some couscous or I don't know, anyway, it was really good stuff. And we just sat down there, visited with each other, learned from each other, and then don't tell the building maintenance people, but then afterwards we got some of the chairs, really rolling office chairs, and did like relays, you know, put your spouse in the chair. Anyways, up and down the halls to see who would win. So nobody got hurt, nothing got broken, and I'm not saying you should do that, but we did. And it was one of the neatest memories that I have from here because I learned to appreciate other people's cultures, their religion, their race, their backgrounds, all of those other things. You have opportunities here at BYU to learn things like that, to learn from each other, to build those human connections. If you don't take time to do that, maybe even turn an assignment late, if that's what it takes. But if you're not taking time to do those kinds of things, learn from someone that looks different than you, thinks different than you. If you don't do that, you're missing out. You're missing out on a vital part of your education and why you're here. So I am thankful for that. I am so grateful for the chance to come to BYU, what I've learned and what a great career and what's great ahead of us still at American Forum. With that, again, I'm sorry it took a lot more time, but thank you. It's been a thrill to come here, and I appreciate it.
Guys, we've got about 5 minutes left. Before you pack up, David actually wants to address us for a little bit, so we'll turn the time over to David.
I'll just hold this. I hope all of you today could recognize what a significant impact an education at Brigham Young University made on Scott, and myself as well. Scott and I sat in this room and probably didn't pay attention like we should have. But we had a great time, and we developed a friendship that's lasted a lifetime. And Scott's career, you know, it started out in the private engineering world and ended up going into the municipal world, into government, local government. And my career was the exact same way. And it was strange how our careers match each other, but we were in different states and we were not in contact with each other. I went to American Fork at the beginning of 2017, and we had a lot of changes in the city, including losing every single engineer in our engineering department over time. And Mitch was one of them. We miss him. So when we were looking for a public works director and city engineer, it was a tough decision. I knew I needed somebody who had a big vision of what the city could be, and someone who had a lot of foresight. Not just someone who's technically skilled, but someone who could communicate, someone who could have a relationship with the mayor and city council and communicate to the public. And you know, it was getting kind of iffy on the applications that I was looking at. And right at the last minute, the HR director came in. He said, "Hey, I just got this application from a Sensa something. I can't," and he couldn't even say the last name. And I'm like, "Sensenbauer?" He goes, "Wow, how'd you know?" And I'm like, "I think I know this guy." And looked at his application. Sure enough, it was Scott. And just from the relationship that we had here at BYU, I was thinking this could be fantastic. And so I held out of the initial interview session because I knew I would be a little bit biased. And so I pulled out of that. He came through the first interview session with at the top of the heap, which I knew he would. And then I had a chance to interview him with the mayor and a council member. And of course, he flew past that, and it all worked out. And we brought Scott to American Fork from El Paso, and it has been absolutely fantastic. Scott and I have intense discussions. Last night we had him pretty late before he went to planning commission. We see the world a little bit differently, but that's okay. I love it. I love the fact that his experience in New Mexico is different than my experience and I've stayed in Utah my entire career. But it's different, and it's great. And so what you're learning here at BYU, it is important that you get good grades. Scott downplays that. He didn't do as bad as he said. And it's important, and I have to say this so your professors aren't saying, you know, it matters. Get good grades, study hard, okay? But there is more to it, and that is relationships and your ability to just, again, like Scott said, be good people, treat people well, have good relationships with people. It's really important. But I'm grateful for Scott to be working with him again, and the basis of it was Brigham Young University, and I'm grateful to this university for that, and so many things that I learned from here. So that's all I have to say.
Can I have
Thank
a
you.
lot?
Yeah.
And then next week's going to be college lecture series, so don't come here. Okay, come down.